Я занимаюсь надежностью примерно с 2015
I have been in
Начинал я
reliability for 15 years, and I started working with reliability, DevOps, and I did the first operational platform that did metrics and alerts for our DevOps and SRE, and then I also worked on SRE and DevOps, and I have been helping the analytics and engineers to feel more confident and to use the practices that exist in SRE, that is site reliability engineering. Why are we talking about three spiders? I love this picture. And when I started doing data, it often occurred in our communication and finding who is responsible, who should do things. That's very appropriate in data because usually there are a lot of teams and people who are responsible. And before we get started, I would like to introduce a few things. There is this thing called the criticality matrix, and this is the global benchmark. And the highest criticality is for the services where you can face the biggest losses. That is in IT, the work of the payments, ATMs. In data, most of the time, we don't have such representatives. And first, the non-availability of data can hardly result in really high losses. And the requirements that we have to the availability of data, the ability to restore the data and to respond for data is not really applicable. But in business critical, we already have the representatives like that. In IT, for example, this is loan origination, building an ETL storage, and in data, it is the regulation just in time. And below, there is business operational, the work of Jira, Wiki, HR platform, CRM systems. And in data, we are talking about all sorts of operational analytics and managerial reporting. In office productivity, this is about the work of AI assistants, 5 letters application, the availability of data from stores for the business analytics. And I would also like to do certain parallels with SRE. And here I show a classical tandem. And this is the team that is in charge of storage, that is in charge of the network. There are platform services, the virtual machines, and different environments, and classical database services, and the development teams built their own applications to interact with the users and clients. We have applications of a different level of criticality. And in case of SRE, the criticality is inherited downwards. If something is unavailable, then it will be available for all the applications. It will be unavailable irrespective of their criticality. And how does it work in data? The data is taken from the operational databases through certain processes. They are delivered to the storage. In the storage, then everything is
Дата-инженеры и формируют его
taken by the data engineers, and they do the ETL showcases, and this is how the compliance procedures and other processes for data are built. And in a similar way, we get the supercritical reports that we have to send to the central bank today. And there are others which are not that critical, but you still have to keep them. And so the criticality is there for the down layers, but it doesn't work upwards the extracting block
общим для всех, он естественным образом
is
наиболее критичным.
shared, and it is the most critical. But if you look at the ETL and analytical domains, we cannot require the criticality from the ETL piece underpinning the non-critical reports. And to get even more immersed into this, I would like to show examples of certain incidents in data. For example, we did not have an update of raw data from the application, which means we will not be able to get fresh data, relevant data, which can be used in the new fresh report. Another most terrible example, when the extraction of data doesn't work at all, we don't get it either in ETL or analytics domains. And an isolated small example where the TL models didn't work, and this only influences the analytical domain that uses this. And I would like to talk a little bit more about the detailed showcase of an incident to understand the problems we are dealing with. The trigger was that the users saw some outdated data, and the analysts start looking at the issue. Where was the data lost? They do test inquiries, they write to the help desk to identify where the issue really happened. And the others don't really understand how critical this is and how much time they have to resolve this. And they don't understand who else was affected. And to answer these questions, we launched the process of data instinct management, and it has to identify the incidents and note the criticality. To understand how it works, I will draw a mind map with the key points. First of all is the criticality metrics and the data lineage, the hierarchy of dependencies, of attributes. Then this is what the data pipeline looks like, and how these accountable people can then use that accountability and access, and we'll see the indicators of inaccessibility, and we'll see how it builds into the overall platform solutions. Here, let me remind you that we lack processes with maximum criticality, but business critical and below level abounds in them. Let's have a look at what the data lineage, just in case, let me show that schematically. Imagine we have some raw data, spreadsheets in our storage, and we use these tables to build ETL domains. And on the basis of these ETL domains, we we built the analytics. And lineage gives us a lot of useful things, such as the impact analysis, migration processes. We use that in troubleshooting and incident management. Let's try to work on this horizontally and see the participants and joins. And this is delivered to the storage. Then this raw data is taken by the data engineers, and they turn it into the ETL domains and model data. Then the analysts use laptops and bioinstruments to turn that into reports, dashboards, etc. And they can also use that in the operational environment. And this is consumed by compliance and by the users if it's operational data. Who are the main actors there? It's the team, data engineers, and analysts. And how do they agree about how to use the data? Let's remember the same thing. We have a supercritical process, and it's very important to have high availability so that the down layers could respond fast. They talk to the data engineers, and they explain why the report is important and what risks will realize if the report is relayed. And they agree about the level of criticality. But this is obviously not enough, because there is also raw data at the bottom. So they talk also to the vendors, to the contractors, to the providers, and they increase or raise the criticality of supplies. And where do we need the criticality notion? I tried to explain that in high-level groups, because a lot of important activities didn't start because we were in a deadlock. We said we didn't know what is critical, and criticality opens a lot of doors. This is an artifact for the criticality of bottom layers. This is the prioritization. If there is a failure or degradation, the right identification of the level of failure and escalation, also identifying the requirements to the team and how they should respond, the help with the filtration in migration, and why we have to migrate data, etc., forming best practices to identify mismatches and discrepancies. Also, filtration organization. We have to respond first to what is supercritical. What is not critical might have a different quality of service policies. And it's about the exact understanding by the business, the criticality of the processes. And let's talk about service level indicators. This is one of the key things in SRE, automatic land fast in real time. We should understand if everything works. And in data, we have these examples. For example, the readiness of data by a certain time, the relevance of data, and also taking the data through certain checks, and we might have an integral indicator which should be above a certain percentage. And to come up with the high-quality indicators, we also ask for deadlines, and for ourselves, we have the soft deadlines and hard deadlines. And if we don't get that right, the risks will be realized. And why this is important? Because the processes that are written on paper are hard to follow, but when there are certain platform and not just platform solutions, you can improve your process and product through the integration. For us, this is about such services. If all the further described services are internally developed by NT, and they are a platform product. That's our flagship product, Find Dog. This keeps the status of incidents, the mapping of who is responsible for what. We work with the alerts, subscriptions, etc. And then our platform, observability platform, Sage, is about metrics, logs, tracing, and alerts. It's also about a data quality platform so that we get the results of quality checks fast. And then we also have the data detective, and we show the key attributes when they're needed. And we also get the data lineage. Without that, a lot of features would be impossible. And there is also the tool that is called severity for calculating the readiness by the time. And let's look back at the scenario I showed at the beginning, and let's see what really changed. The analysts look at the issue, and now they have the lineage. And now we know for sure who is responsible for what. And thanks to that, whoever is responsible has the responsible person, the accountable person. And so we can say very clearly when the issue occurred. And we also have the criticality, we have the failure, and we have the color for the impact, and we also have the deadlines. And because of the availability of the lineage, we can use this data and we can understand who else was affected and include them in the total picture of a failure. And this riddle of the three spiders is close to being resolved. And I would like to show you a few metrics. And what we do is we have been working with this thing for 6 months, and we entered around 20% of our critical processes, and the usage of lineage covers 4% of all the spreadsheets, including Sandbox, and 15% of the total product perimeter. And 2 out of 3 processes have an incident. And sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And it might seem that we are not stable and we have a lot of incidents. But for us, this is a very positive signal, which shows that we can see the failures, and because we see them, everyone affected learns about them at the right time. And we also get in the position to analyze what is happening, finding the system insights, and work on making sure that the system errors do not occur again. Apart from that, there is a high conversion of alerts in incidents, 6%. This is achieved because we are able to
тонко подобрали индикаторы, которые
select the indicators in a subtle manner and fine-tune them. So we have
процессом, который мы им дали.
false positive results really seldom, and we have 100% filling in of post-analysis and post-mortems for critical incidents. That's important to capture our experience and making sure we do not repeat that. So what have we learned? We have learned what is the criticality of data, why we need the lineage, and what does the data pipeline look like, or what are the participants, how these participants can agree about criticality and use it, what are the indicators of data reliability, and why this needs to be part of the platform services. Most of the materials in this presentation are based on the analog Unitrol. Unitrol is a freely available program, so you can ask me questions if you like. Okay, now over to your questions.
Здесь опускать нельзя, кажется. Меня здесь поругали. Интересно знать.
It would be interesting to know the real time for responding to incidents in terms of those on duty. How many hours? You mean the response time? What is your SLA, roughly? Now, look. We have a different matrix. I didn't show it here, which identifies the different levels of criticality and the recommended response times. And for the most critical, it is within an hour. For the least critical, for the least critical is around a week. And this is something where we say no criticality, and office productivity is 1 day, 1 work day. The minimum is 1 hour. And it's interesting in terms of operational management, how do you appoint those on duty? So you have the data engineers who are on duty to respond to incidents, or everyone has their own time or their own area that they have to respond to. So we entered in the overall platform solution for incident management, and we have quite mature practices for SRE, and we have the institution of being on duty and also those shifts. And we just reused this approach. We identified all the levels of this cake. We made sure that they have their teams there, and they should create the calendars of being on duty. And in particular, we make sure that people rotate. So data engineers have a certain schedule. So even if some critical dashboard falls, they will not have to step in. I didn't quite get it. In this case, SRE data engineers are the developers. Most of of the time, they do the analysis and they develop things and they make models, but they're also responsible for the reliability of what they do. Not everyone has the dedicated SRE, because if you look at ordinary, usually they have people for monitoring the reliability alerts, metrics, etc. There are processes where we have the dedicated teams, but generally speaking, everyone is responsible for their own piece. And from my experience, yes, data engineers have time on duty, and this is a normal practice. This is a normal business practice. Artem, thank you very much. My name is Evgeny, and I have this question. You said there was this incident when users identified a problem with the report. When was it? 5 years ago when you started to work? And why no other alerts work? You have a very long chain from raw data to data transfer. Why no other alert worked? So why did it get to the users? And then you get into the ETL platform and it got to the users. Thanks for this question. So the generic answer is the same as SRE approach. Working with alerts is the continuous work. You identify an issue, you insert an alert, then there is a new issue arising and you install a new alert. For that issue, there was no alert, but then a lot of people overlooked that. SREs who didn't check their data, engineers didn't or did not validate this. Yeah, it was a comprehensive issue. Yeah, exactly. And within this activity that we are doing, this whole progress bar for critical processes, the next stage will be that we will look at those critical processes and we will say, guys, if you are down, let's have a look at what we could do about that. And we need to make sure that they can respond fast if they see issues with the business logic or they don't get. If no one else has questions, here is mine. And twice you mentioned that an analyst does the incident decomposition. I always had an issue in my company. The analysts sometimes lack competencies because an analyst most of the time is a smart employee who puts together light, easy queries for the needs of the customer, and the developers and the data engineers are saying, oh, go ask somebody else. It's not my problem. That's very true. How do I best answer? Here, I will just try to show something to you. Do you believe that this is the task of an analyst? Should an analyst do that? To demonstrate that, I want to show a specific case to you.
Да, далеко листать придется. Вот, в общем, смотри, вот на самом деле аналитика вот здесь, им прежде
Now
всего
look,
надо взаимодействовать
the analysts first and foremost have to interact with their data engineers. Like you said, they definitely don't know it all, and not always will they be able to tackle the incident, but they have this first hop, and if they have a massive issue and they don't see it on their side, then data engineers can interact with the platform, with the supplies, and they have a lot more contacts. They understand what it looks like from the inside and where something could go wrong. This is just one of the underflows in the incident process. These groups interact layer by layer because this is something they know better. And for us, the analysts would run to the developers of the products and they said, this is your issue. And this was better and more successful because most of the time the analysts work with the developer so that we know how to tackle the issue. And the data engineers were outcast somehow. They were the fifth wheel. And the analysts are the people who use the fruits of the labor of the data engineers.
Еще вопросы?
Okay. Any further questions?
Ну,
I'm still here.
такая интересная тема.
Such an exciting topic, guys. And no questions? Are you serious?
Первый вопрос не ответил. Когда это была проблема? В начале твоей карьеры?
And you haven't answered my first question. When did this happen? Was it 6 months ago or at the beginning of your career? I believe it was last autumn. Actually, this case is not completely from real life. And the key issue had to do with the fact that the unavailability of data, it wasn't obvious that it influenced something critical, and so they didn't really rush to fix it.
Ну что, кажется,
Okay,
больше вопросов
it
нет.
looks like there are no further questions. Artyom, what was the best question of the two?
Что-что?
What?
Ну,
Okay.
да.
Можно книжечку?
Can we award a prize to this gentleman?
Интересно.
Okay, Artyom, thank you very much. It was interesting to look back at what it was like. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.